Nyagun here. Welcome to OB Studios. In today's video, I want to take you through how to build an off-canvas menu using Droip. So I do have this design over here, and on the right hand side there is a menu button. So when I click on that menu button, we activate this sidebar that you do see over here, and then when you click on this, it closes the sidebar or the off-canvas menu. It's pretty straightforward to build. There are a few technical stuff that we're going to tackle, but apart from that, it should be really nice to go through this. So without talking too much, let's try and build it out again. So first thing, let me close this, and this is our development environment. Over here you can see that I do have the design that I already made. So one thing that I'm going to do is delete this, and then we are going to try and rebuild it again. All right, so let's take this off. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to refresh, and I'm going to go into layer and go into components. I want to remove all the classes that I do not want. So I'm going to do a cleanup of the classes, say confirm. So all the old classes are now gone. We are going to start afresh. So first and first, we will need a navbar. So we're going to go all the way to the bottom. In this section called component, there is a navbar already made. We are going to click on navbar. So the navbar is now added to our page. Let's open up our layer. I'm going to drag the navbar to the top. So our navbar is at the top. Going back into the design, this is how it looks like. So we do have like a logo over here, and then this dashboard items, and then there's this one to the bottom, and you can see that the overlay is a bit dark, and there is more like a blurred attached to it. So we're going to try and also create that overlay. All right, so that being done, let's try and get this situated. So first thing is this link block, which has the image. Instead of using image, we're going to use an SVG. So I'm going to go into element and then use SVG, and I'm going to go into Figma. I'm going to right click on this flatten item, and then go to copy as SVG. You can literally copy SVG and come and paste it into, you see, paste SVG. When you click on that, you can delete everything from here and then paste what we copied, and then click on update. So you do have this thing over here. So that is our logo. I'm just going to close this. That is fine. All right. Inside, going back into the layer, I want to remove the image. So I'm just going to click on delete, and the image is gone. So we do have our SVG over here. On the other side, we have this menu, nav menu, which we want. So we are going to leave the nav menu over there. We're going to work on that later. If you remember, we do have our button on the right hand side all the way to the far end. To do that, we are going to add a button. So go to element and let's find a button. And that being done, go back into our layer. A button is selected. Let's rename this. We can double click on this and call it open nav, right? That is good. And then I'm going to come over here to the right hand side, and for the classes, I'm going to detach the old class and then give it let's say open dash nav, right? So that is the class that we are going to give it. And in here, what we do want to do is to give it a name. So we're going to double click on that and give it a menu. That is good. And I'm going to go back and click on the wrapper, go into our element, and then look for icon, and then add an icon inside. So this icon, I'm just going to click on this replace icon over here, and then look for menu, right? So menu. So I'm going to choose this very version of it and just click on add. So we added an icon to that. And what I can do is I'm just going to detach this and say open nav SVG. So that is what we have given the name for the SVG. And over here we can start giving it like a better size, let's say 32 pixels. and that should be okay. For the height, we can change this one to fit content if we have any issues, but I think this is pretty good. Going back into our layer, I'm going to drag this to the top so that it is in front. I'm going to click on the open nav, and I'm going to go into structure. I want to make sure that this is flex. So click on this and change it to flex. And when I come down, we have it in a row. I'm going to center this and I'm going to place it to the left, and that should be fine. We can give it a gap of, let's say, 5 pixels. I'm going to think that is good. All right. So the button still has like a few things attached to it, like backgrounds and other stuff. So I'm going to go into background. Remember, you have to select your button. So background, and over here, I'm going to drag the opacity to 0. It also has a stroke on it. So I'm going to click on stroke. Make sure that this stroke is 0 also. All right, that is good. Inside the strategic panel, you can see that there is a predefined, let's call it padding. So I'm going to lock the padding and change it to 0. If you don't need padding, remove it. I don't want the padding, so I have actually removed that, and that is fine. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to select my nav bar, and then in here, I want to give it a padding of, let's say, 20 pixels. Yeah. So all around 20 pixels, which is good. And then I am going to save that. Okay, so we have done our button, and it is fairly good. And we don't have to do any animation on it because there's no animation on this button. If you want to do an animation on it, you can also do animation, but on this video, we are not going to do any animation. The next thing that we want to tackle is what we do have over here to the left hand side. So we want the nav to move to the left hand side. But before that, you can see that we do have this overlay. So we need an overlay first, and then we need something that is going to hold everything on this left hand side. So we need more like 2 divs around our nav. All right, so there's our nav. What I'm going to do is go into an element, add a div, and then add another div. Open our structure panel. So this is the div. So we're going to call this div some menu, and then let's call that wrapper. So save that. And then this one, we are going to call it inner wrapper, right? So this is going to be the one that has the whole blurry stuff on it. So let's go back over here. So this thing that you do see is associated with this menu wrapper, and then this inner wrapper, it corresponds to this white thing that you do see. Why do we need that? There are a few reasons for doing that, because when we do make our nav bar fixed and we pull it out, or when we turn it into fixed and then we do trigger it using the menu, there's going to be an issue if we do not have this wrapper around it. So you need a wrapper, and then you do need an inner wrapper. So that is what we have done. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take our menu and then bring it all the way inside our inner wrapper. So our inner wrapper now has the menu that we want to deal with. All right, so next thing is click on this, and then I'm going to go into, make sure that we give it a good class name. So let's call it menu. Let's call it wrapper. So that is menu wrapper, and then we can go into the inner wrapper too, and then give it a class name of inner wrapper. So those are the 2 things that we want to do. So menu wrapper, inner wrapper. And then over here too, we can give this one a class if we do want it to have a class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to detach the old class, and then I'm going to give it menu nav. So that's the class that I'm giving it. And with that, we are going to go forward and do some few things that we do want to do. All right. When I go back over here, you can see that there is this listicle, right? So the list over here, the nav bar, and then there is probably like a header over here. So to do that, what I'm going to do is this nav menu, I'm going to click on the inner wrapper, right? Go into element and then add a div. All right, so this div, I'm going to drag it to the top. I'm going to take this menu and then place it inside the div. So in here I can add, so we can call this one nav, let's call this, let's say section, section 1 or section, whatever name you want to give it. Let's go back and see what name is here. So section overview. So instead of calling section, let's call it overview, right? So this overview, we can give it a class 2 of nav overview. So that is that. And when we start making like styling changes, it will affect this very one. Okay, so before we even go forward, I want to be able to see what I'm doing. So to do that, I have selected the menu wrapper. So the big one. So the menu wrapper, I've selected that. I'm going to go into position, and I'm going to change this one from static to fixed. So when you do that, you can see that it drags it and it places it to the left hand side. But there is a padding on this nav bar. So I'm going to make sure that I click on this so that it places it to the top of 0%, and then to the left of also 0%. After doing that, I'm going to close this and I'm going to go into size. With size, I'm going to go into the width and then give it 100% width. So it covers the entire width of our string, or the entire width of our parent div, which is this nav bar. All right, so that being done, we can do whatever that we want with it. But we are going to do another thing. Open our menu wrapper, click on our inner wrapper. So our inner wrapper is what is going to have our main background. So I'm going to go into background, and then I'm going to change this one to a white. So you can see that is the white. So let's close this, and then I'm going to go into size. The size that I do want for this is let's say 500. So we do have 500 pixels. So you can see that our inner wrapper is now the one that has the white. Our main wrapper or our mini wrapper does not have the white. So that's why when you come over here, you can see that this one has the white, this doesn't have the white. All right, so that is that. The next thing that we want to do is our mini wrapper is still selected. We want this to cover the entire screen. So still inside, we are going to go into the height and give this one 100%. So you can see that now it covers the entire screen. And I'm going to go into our inner wrapper too. And also I'm going to give this one 100%. So now it covers the entire screen too. Let's save that. There's something over here. I'm going to go into structure, meaning that. All right, that is good. All right, I'm going to make sure that everything is good. All right, so this is what we do have, and we can start doing more with that. So next thing that we actually want to deal with is this is our overview. We want to fix our overview a bit. So I'm going to click on overview, and I want to add a header. So go back into our layer, drag this to the top. Let's drag this to the top, and then let's give this one a name of overview. All right. Okay, so overview now done perfectly. And then with this, we are going to detach this, the class name, and then give it, let's say, txt. Let's call this small, right? Let's call it XL, right? txt XL. And then for the size of this, we're going to give it, let's say, 12 pixels. Let's make it a bit bigger so that at the end, I'm going to change the size later on. And I'm going to change this one to also this very text. And for color, I'm going to leave the color right now as this. I'm going to fix it later on. But let me go back into our inner wrapper, right? And I'm going to add a padding over here. So go into structure, and then for padding, I'm going to give it like 20 pixels all around. Okay, so that is that. Go back into our nav. You can see that our nav does have like a few styling around it we want to fix. You can see that in our structure panel, it has a margin. So I'm going to click on this and make sure that this is auto or 0, whatever you want to call that. So make that 0, and then it has also 40 pixels on the left. I want to also make sure this is also 0. All right. And one thing that we also want to do is I'm going to go into all right, this does have a class. I'm going to open. This doesn't have a proper class, so I'm going to detach this class. And then with this, all right, so let's give this one nav item, right? That's the class I want to give it. And then I'm going to click on this. All right, let's go into our bigger nav. A few things that I want to remove. Typography. All right, one thing that probably detaching the class was probably premature. So I'm going to remove the very first one. I'm going to click on this, right? So what I'm going to do is, instead of detaching this class, because there are styling here that I really do not want to go through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here. Instead of doing detach, I'm going to just do duplicate. And I'm going to give it nav dash dash item. So it inherits the old class, but with a new name. And from here, I can do a bit of styling changes. So instead of having it at 32, I'm going to change this one to 16. And I'm going to click on the second nav item, detach this class, and then we can call this one nav dash dash item. So now it also inherits the styling from the old one. Okay. Make sure that everything is good. Also with this, what I'm going to do is also give this one 16 pixels, and yeah, we can go from here. All right, so for styling, let's change the size of this to like 12 pixels. All right, so you can see that I'm going to detach this. I want to apply it to this, so let's give this one 12 pixels. So it applies to both of the items over here, and making sure that there is not, looks like there is space over here. I want to save this and then preview this in the front. Go into our code. I want to find out what. All right, so the list items, it does have padding on it. So going back into our dev. So when I select on this item, I'm going to structure panel. You can see that there is padding around it. I want to remove everything, like absolutely everything. I don't want it to apply to a new class. I want it to apply to this very class. So take that one and give it a 0. All right, so we've done that. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to click back on this menu, nav menu, which holds the nav items. And from here, we can go into our structure panel and we can turn this one into also flex, make it into a column, and then we can give it like a gap of 5 pixels, and that should be good. Place it to the left, and yeah, and then this is good, and then we can save that. So the next thing that we want to do is probably like duplicate this a few more times. So let's click on this nav menu, click on this dot, and over here you can actually just click on this line and duplicate it. Click back on this and then rename this to let's say bookend, right? And then also click back on this, duplicate it, and also rename this into let's say portfolio, right? So we do have this, and that is good. All right, so that is the first one. When we go back over here, you can see that there is a divider. We can also create the divider by using a normal div. So let's close that. So inner wrapper, right? So selecting the inner wrapper, go into element and just add a div. All right, so this div, we can call this one divide. And then with this, we're going to give it a class name of let's say nav divider. So that's the name. And then go into size. We want to give it a height of 1 pixels and then a width of 100 pixels, and then that should be good. So next thing I'm going to do is add background color. So with this, I want to add a linear gradient. let's pull our linear gradient over here. So I'm going to add color in the middle. So that's going to be our color. I'm going to drag this a bit up and then select the right, the color on the right, drag the opacity to 0. Select this color on the left too, drag the opacity to 0. And then we close that, and then I'm going to save it. Then when I go back over here and then I refresh it, we do have something more like that. Okay, so going back into our design, you see there's space here, but the space is not enough for the top. So what I'm going to do is our inner wrapper needs more padding. Let's unlock this, and then for the top, we are going to give it like 100 pixels, maybe too much, 50 pixels. All right, so 50 pixels, that's good. And then for the bottom too, we can give it like 50 pixels. All right, so inner wrapper still selected. I'm going to go into structure, already in the structure panel. I'm going to click on this and change it to flex. And I want it to be in a column. I want it to be on the left hand side. And then I'm going to give it a gap of, let's say, 30 pixels. And then save that. All right, so this is our divider. This is our first, let's call it our first section. Okay, so you can see that this is overflowing the bounds over here. So I'm going to change this one to, let's say, 70 pixels. All right, and I think that is good. So 70 pixels is good. All right, so next thing that I can do is this overview. We can duplicate that. So duplicate it. I am not actually going to like change the text or anything like that. I'm going to duplicate this again. Click on here, duplicate that, and I'm going to drag this one in between this. So we do have the divider there, and then I'm going to save that. And when I come back and I refresh this, you can see that we are actually getting there. So next thing I want to do is I'm going to fix this typography. So I'm going to change this to 12 pixels, and for color I'm going to drag this all the way here to like a gray and save that. And when I come back in here and I refresh, so we do have the overview, whatever, which is cool. Next thing that I want to do is that let's close this. So this is all the things that we do need. So in here I'm going to add another div. You can see that we do have this very thing at the bottom. So I'm going to add another div inside. So let's add a div, and then I'm going to bring it all the way to the top, and then we can call this one section container, right? And then with this, I'm just going to give it nav holder 1. Okay, so I'm going to drag everything into this one. So everything. All right, so this all items. Probably next thing we want to do is select this container, and then I'm going to go into our size. We want to make this 100%, which is good. And then let me save that. When we go back into our front end and I refresh, you can see we don't have any gaps in between there. So let's fix the gap issue by going into our structure panel and changing this one into flex, make this one into a column, bring this one to the left, and then our gap, we still do want it to be 30 pixels. You can change this one to like 20 pixels, which is fine. And then we save that. So when I go back and then I refresh here, you can see that this is the design that we do have, which is pretty cool. The next thing is I want to create a thing for the bottom. So selector, this inner wrapper, I'm going to add another div. And then for this div, we just need like a few texts. So I'm going to copy the text that we do have over here. Copy the text. So this div, let's call this one nav bottom. All right. And then for structure, I'm going to lock this and then give this one 20 pixels all around. For background, I'm going to give it a background color of black. And then I'm going to add our first header text. So header, remember to change this one to an H2. and you can add a book appointment. Yeah. And for this, I'm going to detach the name, and I want to find the class txt excel, right? So let's give this one txt dash and excel. So the name is right there, and I'm going to add a paragraph, and then let's add the paragraph that we did have. And this one, it does have this doesn't have any class name, so I'm going to give this one its own class name. So let's detach the old one, and then give it like nav para, right? Like nav paragraph. And then for typography, this is 12 pixels. For color, you can give it like this very one, and I'm going to remove the very first top one. All right, and that is good. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is add a button. So let's say button, and then in here, so for like the button, open the layer. So in this text, what I want to change that one is join us now. You can add like exclamation mark, and then click back on the wrapper for the button. I'm going to change this one and call it nav btn --1. Give it a proper name though. And then for like the text, we can give it like 12 pixels for the text. And going back into background, you can give it like a background color of white. And then let's close this. Go into structure, give everything. Let's lock that and give this one like 10 pixels all around. And then unlock it on the left hand side, give it 20 pixels. On the right hand side, give it 20 pixels. And then close this structure. Let's go into stroke and then change this one to 25 pixels for the stroke. And we can remove the border, make it 0. And voila, we are almost there. Clicking back on the div block, we can go back into stroke and give this one also like 25 pixels for that. And we can save it. Okay, next thing I want to do is, let's call this one bottom nav, right? Selecting back our inner wrapper, I'm going to go into structure, and then for justification, I'm going to say space in between, so you post it all the way to the bottom, and then I save that. So we are almost there. Next thing that I want to touch on is that we do have this Droip logo. So how did I do that? So what I'm going to do is, where's our logo? This is our logo. So let me just rename this one to logo. And then I am going to go into position, change this one to relative, and then we can give this index of, let's say 3, and that is good. All right, so I can save that. So now we are almost done with what we want to do. The next thing is that I want to click on the menu wrapper. You can see that we do have this blurry stuff. So to do that, so the menu wrapper is where the blurriness is going to be on. I'm going to go into effect, and when you go into effect, you do have on element and then on backdrop. We want what we want to happen on the backdrop. So let's select backdrop, and then for blurred, let's click on this. So this become like really blurred out like that. And then what we can do is we can add a background color of black, and then we can just reduce the opacity like that. All right, and what I'm going to do is also go back into position. You can see that this is what flowing is balanced. Let's give this one 2 pixels, and it works like that. All right, so we have actually accomplished probably 80% of what we want to do. The next thing is to create that effect that we do want, that when you click, it happens and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so to do that, what we do want is we want to animate this this open nav, this button over here. We want to animate it. So what I'm going to do is click on this menu wrapper, and I'm going to just want to hide it. So we want to animate it so that when we click on this, what it does is that it pulls it from the left and brings it into the screen. All right, so that's been done. Let's click on open nav, And then with this, what I'm going to do is go into interaction. So with interaction, we're going to select element and set a trigger to mouse click. So mouse click on this very open nav. So after that, we are just going to create custom response. Let's drag this to the middle. So I'm going to click. What do we want to do? So what we want to do is that when we click on this, or when we tap on this open nav button, we want menu wrapper to move from the left to the right. So I'm going to click on menu wrapper, and then I'm going to click on here and choose move. So let me click this and drag it to the left. And then with the X, because it's on the X axis, I'm going to say 100%. All right. And I am going to close it. So next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back and click on menu wrapper, and then go back into position. And I'm going to drag this all the way to the left by giving it 100, negative 100%. So now it is off the screen. Let's save that, and then let's preview it. So we do have this. So when I click on this, you can see that it brings it from the left to the right, or it brings it into our screen. There is a little bit of styling issue here. I am going to fix that. So let's refresh this and then go back into, I'm going to delete, close this, and then also close that. So over here, let's bring back our menu wrapper, and we can see there is an issue here. What I'm going to do is go back, clicking back in the inner wrapper, right? Go into structure, and then for this, I'm going to give it 100 pixels, which is good. Let's preview it. All right, so now it works properly. That is fine. All right, so next thing that we want to do is, after we have clicked for the menu to be shown, we also need something that is going to cause the menu to go away. All right, so to do that, click on let's add it to our inner wrapper, right? So select the inner wrapper and then go into element. You can use whatever that you want to use. For me, I am going to use an icon. So I'm going to add an icon. So you can see the icon is down below, and then it says add media. So over here, I'm going to look for, I'm going to choose and look for menu. Now I'm going to just close. All right, so click that and then just click on add. So we've added that, and then I'm going to detach the old class and then give it nav close, right? So we've added a class to that. So let's go into size and give this one probably 32 pixels. And then for the height, I am going to change this onto fit content, which is that. Probably 32 pixels is a bit too small. Let's say 42 pixels. It's a bit big. Enough for what we want to do. Go back into our layer. We can change this one to close nav. All right. So what we want to do is we want to move this one to the top. We want to bring it around this spot. So let's go into position. Change this one from static to absolute. So it drags it to the top. And then we are going to do something more like that. But you can see that it is now attaching it to our menu wrapper. We want it to attach it to our inner wrapper. So I'm going to select the inner wrapper, and then in position, I'm going to change this one to relative. So now you can see that to bring it over here. So this is close. Let's give this one, let's say 3 pixels, but we want to bring it a bit to, let's give it like 10 pixels down, and also 10 pixels here. What happened? All right, let's put this one on auto. So here 10 pixels, probably 10 pixels, not percentage. All right, so we have something more like that. So we do have this time stand, which is good. And when I go back, when I preview it in the front end, you can see that it is over here. It is hiding a bit because of this bar. We can bring it a bit lower. So let's say I'm selecting back the close nav. We can bring it even down. down, 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 down. All right, and then I'm going to save that. And then when I preview it again, you see it's a bit now down. I can even bring it, let's say 40 pixels down. All right. So now it is like all the way here. All right, so which is good. The next thing that we actually want to tackle on is we want to also add interaction to this item. So this selected, let's go into interaction, and then I am going to set our trigger to tap, and then create custom response. Let's drag this to the middle. And then when we click on this times icon, what do we want to do? We want to also affect the menu wrapper. So let's click and then choose move. And I'm going to drag this all the way to the end. We don't want any delays. And then we want to set this on to 0%. And then I'm going to save that, right? So let's preview this again. All right, before I preview, I need to do some things over here. Let's close this, and then let's select the menu wrapper, go into position. I want to make sure that this is negative 100%. Let's save that, preview it again, and then when you click on this, it brings it into view. When I click on that, it takes it out of view. But when you click again, it brings it into view. When you click on that, it takes it out of view. Click on this, into view. Click on that, out of view. All right, so this is basically how to create an off-canvas menu using Droip. There are a few things that we could still tackle on when it comes to accessibility and other things that are needed, like active and hover and other things like that. Video is already long, so we are not going to prolong this. In subsequent video, we can tackle things like active, hover state, active state, making it super semantically better, and also for accessibility issues too. We can also do that by doing one or two things, adding a few attributes here and there. So if you did get one more thing before we even go, so clicking on this open nav, then we can go into, when we go into, what is it, effect, we want to change this on from a normal cursor to a pointer. And also for the close icon, we're going to change this one also in effect, change this on to a pointer, and then let's save that, preview it. So when I click on this, it brings it into view. When I click on that, it takes it out of view. When I click on this, brings it into view. When I click on that, it takes it out of view. Click on this, into view. Click on that, it takes it out of view. All right, so this is how to create an off-canvas menu using Droip. If you did enjoy the video, if you did learn anything, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you can also subscribe to the channel to help the channel grow, so that I'll be able to make more videos that will be helpful for you and the community. My name is Nyako. Thank you for watching.